What's cracking, y'all? This is Jordan Kurtz with comments from the Peanut Gallery as well as the MMA plug. We're going to take a look at the UFC Vegas 8 card. Every single week, we take a look at what we got right as well as what I got wrong from the preview matchup by matchup piece that is found at the MMAplug.com. This week's episode is sponsored by Colorado Native Company. The seasons are about to change. It's about to go from summer into fall, and then obviously from fall into winter. Make sure that your heating and air conditioning systems are all serviced and in working order. Make sure that you give a look at Colorado Native Company. Ask for Robbie, let him know that Jordan sent you, and he'll get you all taken care of. Friendly, personalized service in the Denver and Castle Rock area. Without further ado, let's take a look at what I got right and what I got wrong. To start off, we'll take a look at what I got right. So the first thing we're going to look at is Rakic is extremely dangerous. There's no denying that whatsoever. Now, Alexander Rakic, he's a beast. You know, he's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's ultra athletic. At 28 years old, he's still on the climb as far as his abilities and his attributes that he's growing in terms of his style and his arsenal. You know, I have a feeling like with him only this young and having the athletic background that he does, he's the dark horse for the title in the 205-pound division. He's a big man. Did I mention that he's big? You know, the way that he looked in there the other night, that man had to have been close to 230 pounds plus, if not more, just the way that his muscle belly's filled up in that regard. You know, I would like to see him fight next, either the winner of that Glover and Thiago fight or whoever is the loser of that upcoming title match up against Dom Reyes and Jan Blachowicz. Overall, stylistically, out of all four of those guys mentioned, I love the way that he would match up with Dom Reyes. You would just have two very high-level, ultra-athletic guys going toe-to-toe against each other. That would make for an interesting show for the fans, in my opinion. The next statement that I made is Neal is a tough matchup based on the volume, accuracy, and pressure of his offense, and his length and movement changes the math on the defensive front. He's too smart to go in a phone booth with Lawler, and his length will create some issues for Robbie on his striking entries. If you're bold enough to wager on the fight outcome, weigh out the line on the decision for Magny. Hit the nail on the head with this one. Neil Magny was once again a model of efficiency, and he had one of the best performances of his career against Robbie Lawler the other night. You know, for the second fight in a row, Robbie showed some real telltale signs of an aging fighter. He really just couldn't get going, couldn't pull the trigger, and just really couldn't get off. Magny, he's surging right now. He was at, I believe it was 14 going into that fight within the welterweight division. He is going to be looking to, you know, take the climb with the next step. That's a very big name on his resume right there with Robbie Lawler. Looking forward to see what's next from the Elevation Fight Team captain. The next statement I made is, while Kim does have skill, Grasso has the sauce. She has the look, she's tougher than hell, and you can definitely tell that the UFC would like to push her brand. Grasso is coming in at the minus 315 favorite. I'm not going to go against the grain here. That was right. Grasso looked great at 125 pounds. The question was, how would she acclimate to the extra body weight being carried around? And I think she did it beautifully. Her combos were poetic. She was in and out with those pretty cleanly. She didn't take a whole ton of damage. She did get hit a few times by Kim, not taking anything away from Kim, but you could definitely see why she was that heavy of a favorite going into this matchup. It'll be nice to see what's next for Alexa Grasso. I can almost certainly guarantee that she's going to have a number by her name very, very soon, if not right away this week when those new rankings come up. The next statement I made was Lamas may not be the same animal that went toe-to-toe slugging it out with Max Holloway for one of the most iconic in-fight moments of UFC history, but he's still dangerous. Lamas takes it. According to his post-fight interview, this may be the last time that we saw Ricardo Lamas. If it was the last time that we saw him, hats off to you, my man. It was a great career seeing you out there throw down time and time again. You always brought it. You had an exciting style for the fans. And in this very last fight, it wasn't easy. You had to work for this one. And by the time that it got to the third round, you were able to dominate to close out the night and finish with a 10-8 round. If that is the last time that we saw you in the octagon, what better way than for you to go out in a dominant fashion? Congratulations on a great career there, sir. Zach Cummings is silently one of the toughest fighters on the UFC roster. Cummings of Factory X gets back in the winner's circle. That head kick to close the third round, the celebratory fist pump that was timed perfectly with DeShirico falling down to the canvas, not knowing where he was, the look on the referee's face, all those things combined. What a great show from Zach Cummings. The post-fight interview as well. That was an epic line, the epic speech that I'm not here to win a modeling contract, followed by saying that I understand that this is the fight business, but it's also this is the entertainment business, but it's also a fight game, and my ass can fight. That was a great line right there. Hats off to you there, Zach. Following that, Caceres is a high motor guy with some crazy movement. Caceres is a vet. Don't be surprised if he drags him into deep water and tests Springer's will after he missed weight. Leaning toward Caceres with the money line. Caceres is an ageless wonder. He made an example in his last two fights of two young guys who are cracking into the UFC. And obviously Chase Hooper, that wasn't his debut by any means, but is still a very, very young fighter within his career, just trying to figure out what his game is. Caceres, Bruce Leroy, he shed the afro. He said that had old memories attached to it, and he's starting over, starting fresh. He's very spiritual, very into believing in the now versus looking in the past or in the future. He wants to be present now, was very clear about that with his post-fight interview and the press conference. He's looking better as time goes on. So it's pretty cool to see that a guy who has been, in the UFC for well over 20 fights now is continuing to get it done and is finding finishes out there. Hats off to you, Bruce Leroy. Then I said, Sean Brady is undefeated after a dozen pro fights. Brady comes from the Renzo Gracie lineage, and you know that he's going to use his jiu-jitsu to try to neutralize the thunderous striking of Aguilera. Brady has a win against Court McGee, which is indicative that not only does he have skill, but he's also tough with solid conditioning. Sean Brady's legit. I think we saw that the other day. Now that he's 13-0, we're going to see that he's someone to start keeping your eye on as he makes his ascent up the ranks within the division. Welterweight has a lot of emerging talent. There's a lot of guys that are right outside of that top 15 that are just oozing with ability, and he's right there in the mix with a lot of these guys. We did see Aguilera kind of uncork a couple of bombs, but he displayed a well-rounded skill set that was able to work around that and ultimately get to the second round where he was able to secure the technical submission. We don't see one-arm guillotines all too often, and he was able to secure that and leave Aguilera snoring on the canvas. The fight was originally scheduled for UFC 248, but Whitmire fell ill after missing weight, and she was forced to pull off of the fight last minute. If I'm Polyana Viana, this adds fuel to my fire, and I'm looking to make a statement for having to wait 5 more months for this paycheck. If it was not crystal clear here already, I'm taking Viana. Viana snatched an arm quickly and locked up the submission in the first round. Case closed. Then I say that it's been a tough go in the UFC for Cyphers, and it's not going to get any easier on Saturday night when she faces one of the most menacing women's MMA prospects, Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin is a savage who will rip your face off, and Martin will finish Cyphers on the ground. The question is whether it is due to the ground and pound or if she'll force a submission to be given up. In the very first round, Hannah Cyphers came out looking like she was fighting for her job and reeling off of a couple of fight win streak, trying to get back in the mix. She was able to tag Mallory early, but Mallory ultimately withstood the storm, got to the second round, and the Elevation Fight Team product secured the rear naked choke and let out just one of the most primal roars and displays of just pure raw emotion, something similar to the Cat Zingano roar. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to look that clip up. It's going to send chills down your spine when you hear it. Congratulations, Mallory. I'm glad to see that you got a finish in your first UFC victory, and it's on to the next and bigger, brighter things from here. Now that we've got through what I've got right, let's take a look at what I got wrong. I said, according to the line, it's not the popular choice. However, there's no chance I'm not taking the guy who has as many fights in the UFC as the other guy has total, while never having back-to-back losses in his UFC tenure. You guessed it. I'm taking the comeback on the underdog, Anthony Lionheart Smith. I said, it was a tough night in the octagon for the fan favorite Lionheart. Rockets threw some heavy heat to open the contest and ripped a couple of leg kicks that appeared to do some damage. Once it got to the ground, Smith used a couple of different guard variations to defend and try to create a scramble and an opportunity to potentially try to get to the back. Smith was able to switch and reverse the position at one point, but Rockets shook him loose, and the triangle attempt also wasn't able to be a success for Lionheart. Tough night. I also said placing a wager on the fight outcome is always a higher risk scenario than the money line, but with high risk comes high reward. Patolo by KO TKO, and he gives Impa his first loss. So, these two slugged it out and went to war. Patolo started off hot and unloaded some coconut bombs, but to give credit where credit's due, Impa's tough. Especially considering he just won a couple weeks ago against Sugarfoot Adams on the Contender Series. 2 weeks later, makes his UFC debut against a brawler that's as just gritty and tough as Maki Pitolo, and was able to withstand the heavy heat that Pitolo was throwing en route to a pretty clear-cut unanimous decision victory. I also said, all that being said, in favor of the massive favorite Brady, I'm going to go against the grain here and take Aguilera. Aguilera fights with bad intentions and goes for the finish, as evidenced by his UFC debut earlier this summer. Portion favors the bold at plus 900 odds currently. I've got some money on the KO TKO for Aguilera. I knew that Brady was tough and well-rounded. I knew that getting it to the ground against a knockout artist like Aguilera was going to be a key part of the game plan. The thought process behind this was that Aguilera had the chance to clip him on the way in. He has bricks for fists, and I thought that there was a chance that he might be able to clip him on the way for a takedown. Didn't happen, obviously, but like I say, high risk, high reward. So in summary, I went 7 out of 10 on the money line picks. It's a pretty good night overall. Since the COVID cards have resumed, we're still picking at just under 70%, which is way better than that babbling buffoon that they waltz out there to the desk on Tuesday nights before the Contender Series. Make sure that you check your boy out, Kurtzy F Baby. I'm Jordan Kurtz. This is comments from the Peanut Gallery as well as the MMA plug. This episode has been sponsored by Colorado Native Company. See you next week.